Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to take a deep dive into a TV that has one of the best pictures in the history of all TVs. That's right, the Samsung S95C, their flagship 4K OLED TV. Before we get started, if you're into tech, hi-fi, or movies, be sure to push the subscribe button for new weekly videos. So first off, exactly how good is this TV? I'll cover all the details in the video, but to bottom line things, this TV is one of the top 3 pictures of all TVs that have ever existed. I know that's a pretty big statement, but this is backed up by the recent 4K TV shootout at Value Electronics. These pictures are so good that if you don't have them all professionally calibrated and sitting beside each other, you really can't tell a difference. That means this is perfection, and one of these perfect TVs is the Samsung S95C. Now, to level set, we're looking at the 65-inch version of this television, and I used it in my living room, which is a fairly brightly lit room. Now, I tested in both day and nighttime, and I used the TV's built-in apps and an Xbox for gaming. So what makes this TV so special? Let me count the ways. Okay, first off, this is the 2nd generation of OLED television from Samsung. And, just to kind of riff a bit, I'm really happy that Samsung jumped into the OLED arena, because for a long time, they didn't have the technology at all. So, they introduced the B model, and now they've upgraded this to the C model, which is a significant upgrade and has really brought them into the running as one of the top OLED TVs available today. The first thing I want to talk about is the size. They've really optimized this television, and they've made it super skinny, and they also use the One Connect box. So the S95C is just 11 millimeters thick across the entire unit. So if you look on the back, it's flat back there. So it doesn't have bumps and kind of weird things. So that allows you to mount it right against the wall if you want to. Now, to get it that thin, they had to pull out all of the connectors and they put it into the One Connect box. Now, also in the back, you're going to see that there's these little speakers across the bottom. So there's a 70-watt 4.2.2 speaker configuration in this thing, which is pretty awesome. One thing from a size point of view that also is important is that in this lineup, they now have a 77-inch size screen. And that's a big deal because a lot of customer satisfaction for televisions is driven by the size of the screen. And if you max out at 65, well, there are a lot of people that that's not big enough. And when it's not big enough, you go to something else, right? So, Sony has a 77-inch, and now there's a 77-inch in the flagship from Samsung, which really allows them to play with the big boys, so to speak. And they are definitely keeping up with the Joneses. Now let's get back to the One Connect box. This is similar to what they use in the frame television. So basically it's got all of the I/O for the television, other than the screen itself, which is output, but all of your connectivity is here. So this box makes, setup, mounting, and the ongoing maintenance of this television easier, I guess you would say, because you can plug all of your devices in here. Now, the cable on this thing isn't super long, so if you have your television sitting on a TV stand, you can easily put this in the TV stand, or you can mount it on the actual stand of the TV itself. And then you can get your, HDMI, your power, your Ethernet there, and it's not into the TV screen itself. Now let's get into the actual functioning of the TV, right? And you can kind of do 2 things with a TV. You can watch movies and TV and that kind of stuff stream, and then you can play games. And let's talk about gaming first. In my opinion, this TV is set up to uniquely support gaming in the OLED arena, outside of smaller monitors that are made specifically for this kind of thing. So you can get some really cool new OLED computer monitors, but in the TV screen arena, but when you're talking OLED TVs at 65, 77, that kind of thing, this one is kind of unique because it does a lot of stuff that's specifically designed for gaming. So when this thing detects an input from a console, it will automatically turn on low latency mode. And low latency mode is really cool because it really prioritizes the fastest response time and the lowest input lag that you can get. So the input lag on this thing is really, really tiny, particularly for a television. So it really makes gaming a joy. And man, just the picture on this thing when you're playing a game, it is stunning. And the images that I'm capturing on my iPhone to show you in the video does not do this justice. In person, it is amazing. Two other items that I want to call out kind of for gaming world is AMD's FreeSync Premium Pro. So when you use this with a PC, it is a FreeSync monitor. So that helps avoid tearing and ripping and all kind of bad video things. And if you're not familiar with that, it's really cool technology that gives you a better experience gaming when you're gaming at higher frame rates. Also, this includes the Samsung Gaming Hub technology. So what you can do is you can pay for a subscription, and the subscriptions aren't free, from Xbox or a number of other providers, and then you can stream these games to your television and play them, and all you need is a controller and internet and some money, obviously. But it allows you to game on this thing without actually having an Xbox or a PlayStation or a computer plugged into it. Now, I kind of like having the hardware myself, but if you want a very simple setup, all you need is internet, a controller, and a subscription, and you can game your heart out, right? It's really cool. Now let's talk movies and TV. Now, like I said before, the picture quality is world-class, record-breaking, and that really is enough, right? I mean, you won't get anything better. This is really, really good. But a few comments. So, you know, the contrast ratio is pretty much infinite. And since this is OLED and each of the little dots, the pixels, is self-emissive, that means that each one of those can turn on and off. And when you turn it off, you get black, 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 right? So you don't have like LED light bleeding through. You don't have blooming or any of those other kind of problems. It is absolutely superb. Outside of that, the TV supports HDR with HDR10 Plus. Now, there's no Dolby Vision, and you know that's a Samsung thing, but this thing has plenty of brightness for me, right? And I use this in my bright room with windows open, and I didn't have any issue. Now, some people, if you have like direct sunlight and it's really, really bright, you might still want to look at some type of LED technology. But I think for most folks, this is going to be bright enough. There is still room for improvement with OLEDs in the realm of brightness, but for me, this one is plenty good. Inside of the box, we've got Samsung's neural quantum processor with 4K upscaling. Okay, that's a lot, right? But that's what handles all of the video processing. It can upscale SD or HD content to 4K-ish kind of content, and it looks really good, right? And it helps optimize the picture. It's got motion processing, which a lot of people will turn off, which is fine. But it really does optimize quite well. Outside of all this stuff, the TV has several other features, right? So it's got a great anti-reflective coating. It supports QSymphony 3.0. That allows it to integrate with Samsung soundbars. And then it's got Samsung's Tizen operating system. And, you know, this is a good opportunity to talk about the Samsung ecosystem and how all these things work together. So if you are buying a lot of Samsung components, one of the great things is that they all will work together. So let's go back to the QSymphony, right? So if you've got a Samsung soundbar and you use it with this television, it will play sound through all of the speakers, giving you a better audio experience, right? Which is really cool. And that's just a feature of having this stuff all under the Samsung umbrella. Another item is the Samsung Smart Things. So I've got a Samsung refrigerator, and if someone leaves the fridge door open, it will notify me across my Samsung devices that, hey, go close the door, somebody left it open, and it'll pop that up on this television. And now that's all configurable, right? But it's really cool how all these things work together. Now, for setup of the TV, it was really nice because I've got a Samsung frame, and I've gone through and I've installed all my apps and set up all my passwords and all that stuff. So when I set this up and I logged into my Samsung account, I said, hey, look, we can copy over some of your settings and download some of your apps automatically so that you don't have to go through a full tedious setup. And that was really, really nice because it did that stuff for me, and it made getting this television up and running much easier than it would have been otherwise. The last item I want to talk about is the remote control. And the remote control is very similar to other modern Samsung remote controls. It's got the solar panels on the back. It's very minimal. It's really easy to deal with. And if it does run out of power, runs low on power, it'll let you know, so you can set it close to a window. It does have a USB plug, so you can charge it that way if you need to. So nice and simple on the remote control side of the house. And this brings me to my final thoughts. So Samsung is clearly a competitor in the OLED arena now. They are bringing it, and they are bringing it hard. They go toe-to-toe with Sony and LG. And, if you're trying to decide which television to buy, it's going to be other things. You're really going to look at cost. And if you're in the Samsung ecosystem, it might make sense because this will work so well with your other Samsung devices that it becomes kind of a no-brainer that you want to have that interoperability. And if you go with one of the other brands, you won't have that kind of cohesive system at home. This television is equally adept at gaming or viewing TVs and movies. It's got 144 hertz refresh rate on an OLED screen, which is awesome. And you don't find anything like that outside of dedicated computer monitors in the OLED arena. So it's really good. And, I've talked about the picture quality. And, if we talk a little bit more about the OS, it's been flawless for me, right? I didn't need to use my NVIDIA Shield. I can just use the apps inside of the TV OS. It was really great. So really good experience from that point of view. Now, on the downside, there's no 85-inch or larger version of this available. And for some folks, that's going to be a deal breaker because they want the bigger set. And they're going to look at either one of the LEDs from Samsung or a big one from some other company that gives them that size that they have to have. Now, with the 77, you're almost there, but there's a lot of real estate difference between 77 and 98 or 100 or even 85. So it really comes down to how are you going to make your decision. Now, price, I'm not going to talk about price here. It's an expensive television. There's just no getting around that. You're not going to get one of these for $500. But I'll have all the pricing information links down below in the notes, so you can check that out and click around and look and see what's going on. All right, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please take a moment, like, subscribe, and share. That's super important. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.